6 o'clock. We'll come out of recess. Can we stand for the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And Stacy, if you could just call the roll, please.
Bless you. Councilman Gary Donovan,
Councilman Gary Donovan, Council at Large, present.
Councilwoman Colleen O'Connor,
Councilwoman Colleen O'Connor, Council at Large here.
Councilman Ronald Quagliani,
Ron Quagliani, I'm here.
Councilwoman Bridget Hosky is absent, Councilwoman Melly Garthwaite is absent, Councilwoman Sarah Akbarelli is absent, Councilman Mitchell Galignano,
Councilman Mitchell Galignano, 4th District, present.
Councilwoman Robin Watt Hamilton, Councilwoman Catherine Tucker is absent, Councilman Victor Boris,
Councilman Victor Boris, 8th District, present.
Councilman Robert Bruno is absent, Councilman Stephen Johnstone is absent, and Chairman Peter Mazzaro.
Chairman Peter Massaro, 6th District Councilman is here.
Okay,
Thank you, Stacy.
you're welcome.
Okay, first up is the tax office. Rachel, thanks for joining us.
How are you?
If you'd like to have a few opening comments or some highlights of the department, and then when you're ready, we'll ask you some questions if the council has any.
Absolutely. So this year, we just filed our liens for the year, and we filed 1,210 liens. Last year, there were 1,340, most of which being the more so of SOAR. This year, there are less SOAR than there are real estate. So we've kind of evened it out. The people that aren't paying the real estate aren't paying the SOAR. People who weren't paying the SOAR before, we put an extra button on the website so that they can see. You have to click here to pay your SOAR specifically. So those are getting paid at a better rate. I had the Mike Walsh put on our website for people who are behind on their taxes. There's a My Home CT program from the state of Connecticut that will help them get caught up with their mortgage and their taxes. There's a certain dollar amount threshold, but it is listed on the tax page for people who need it. Other than that, we got with Point and Pay, which is our online vendor, and got the fees for paying online reduced this past year. And our fees for our courier service have also, I've been able to get those reduced quite substantially. So other than that, it's not a lot going on. I ran our collections to date. We're at 96.47 for our real estate, personal property, and motor vehicle, and 95.2 for the SOAR. The main reason it's at 95 is because we have a $200,000 bill outstanding from the veterans, the VA, and they know about it. I think they're working on it, but it's the government.
They're here to help. So let me start. First off, so I want to thank you. So there's a couple of things that I know that the council were interested in that they've heard from their constituents, right? The whole simple as putting a button on the website or working to reduce the percentage that goes to the for the credit card, or all things like this that they may seem little to you, but for me they're large, and for the residents they're large. So thank you for listening and for taking action, which you may think were kind of some basic things, but they were important. They were important to see that, and you followed through on them, really quickly. So thank you for that. So, do you have anything else, or could we?
No, go ahead.
Okay, we could jump in. So I only have a couple of things. So I'm interested in the boot program. So we've had the boot before. I know we talked about it at a council meeting a couple of meetings ago, and I know there was a press release out there to kind of let the public know, hey, the boot's coming back. And I know that you haven't been here that long, but is there any historical figures that you have in the amount of extra revenue or the revenue generated from that boot program?
I do have an email from when I first started that detailed the increase in revenue, the calculation. I'll look for it because that was a year ago. And if I can find it, I'll send it up to you
And
guys.
is that revenue, and I'm
It
looking
is
kinda like this
substantial.
way, is that revenue that's already anticipated in the revenue item in the budget?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, so if you have an idea what you think that,
Yeah,
that-
I'll look for the email tomorrow morning.
and then you're the tax manager, right?
Yes.
So was the FY twenty-three number, salary number, based on a certain percentage of the year, and that's why the salary increase is the way the salary increase looks for next year?
No, it's because when it was originally calculated last year, it was calculated based off of a, part-time. So my pay rate, but at part-time hours, because my original pay rate, because I've already got my step in, but, it was calculated only at my original pay rate, but at part-time hours, because Leslie was part-time, and they thought that it was, Scott thought it was immaterial, so it didn't need to necessarily be corrected on last year's budget.
So this is the accurate number?
This
That's
is-
the recommended?
This is, the recommended is I calculated using my current plus my step that I'm gonna get in March. So I did it, it will go up again one more step, but my current amount that I have there is with the calculation for part of the year at lower, part of the year at higher.
Okay. I'll open it up to the council. Anybody have any questions? You're here for the city council meeting?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, Councilman Boris.
How you doing, boss? Rachel. Just want to say, to literally touch on what Rachel was saying, that a lot of the constituents are happy that our pay for the credit card has been lowered. You know, for the debit cards, it used to be $3.95, now $3.25. So people appreciate every little thing you've done. Also, I think that Rachel's done a great job in the little bit of time that she's been there. Compared to, you know, with the little time she's been there, she's done a lot to help a lot of people. So I applaud you, and I thank you for doing what you do for the citizens and the taxpayers of West Haven. Thank you. I'm done.
Thank you, Councilman Boris. Council Chairman Massaro?
Hi, Richard, thanks for coming. I got two questions. Number one, you got down over or under bad checks. Only $50, isn't one check that bounces or doesn't get paid, is $50 right up front? Is that, I mean, is that, substantial amount of money?
David? So maybe that's for if people aren't, I don't know, we haven't used it, and it wasn't there prior, so I'm not sure, I didn't put that on the,
Seems like a write-off.
yeah, it,
Seems like a write-off, if somebody pays 2 cents too much or too little, or,
which may have been added because I've been asking for, because what happens is if they pay 2 cents too little, it just hangs out on our records
okay, as unpaid.
forever,
Yeah.
sometimes.
And they're behind in their taxes, what you said.
And my other question is the, transporter. Is that like Armored Car or somebody that?
Yes.
comes
That's
in?
and it was, our bills were ranging around $1,500, and I got it down to around $6. So that just started, we just got our first 2 bills in together, last week, around 600.
This is new to her department. It's totally transferring cash from taxpayers, paying the bills.
No, this is for the,
Is it?
he's talking about the cash transportation, right?
Yeah, you've got
Yeah.
0 this year, and it's in for next year.
Yeah, that's the
That's,
Dunbar
we're moving
freeze.
it from finance
Yeah, oh,
to tax collection.
yeah, be paying it.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. Anybody else for Rachel in the tax office?
Let me, real quick. The
Councilman Donovan?
DMV part, 500, that wasn't in there. Now
We
it's
had to
five-
pay it
I
out
know
of
it's only
other.
500, but it's just curious.
No, that's our service to use to be able to flag, people and release them immediately. So our taxpayers, when they go delinquent, if they want to be released immediately, we have to pay a fee every year of $500. And it used to be on older budgets, and it wasn't paid in a few years. So I had to add it back onto here, and this past year I caught up when I started, and we had it paid through finance.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Galignano.
So I'm gonna ask a question about that. So, why would the city have to pay for me, so I would get, if I'm late on my taxes, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I want my car to get registered, the city has to pay a fee so I could get my car cleared right away.
No, it's our fee to use the DMV's
Oh, okay.
system. Each individual, if you're late paying your car, there's a $5 surcharge, DMV surcharge on it.
Oh, on the tax.
Yes, because the DMV charges us to use their system, and so the council long ago passed that. So it is made up for in income.
Okay, I just
In
wanna make
revenue.
sure that we didn't have to pay because somebody was late, my mistake. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councilman. So, Rachel, so I know the answer, but I think it's important that we put it out because, so not a lot. Residents call up and say that they've called the tax office and they've asked to get on a payment plan, and the tax office says that I can't get on a payment plan. So, could you explain the reason why that you don't accept payment plans?
We accept partial payments at any time. We cannot legally enter into a payment plan via state statute. It does not give us the legal authority to enter payment plans, but we do accept partial payments at any time, and we're more than happy to take people's money. As long as they have bills due. If they don't have bills due, we don't take
Right.
it.
Right. Those would be donations, then, I would imagine, right?
That would have to go to a different department.
So secondly, new topic. So I've been on this council 9 years, so, and I think every year I ask the same question, but I think this may be the first time I'm asking you. So we have had a habit of having a bunch of legacy systems that don't talk to one another. So the building department's permitting system doesn't talk with the police department, who's got overdue parking tags, who doesn't talk to the tax office, who has overdue taxes. So if somebody is current on their taxes but owes $3,000 in parking tickets, are they still able, is there a database that you all share? So if somebody comes in to, or even somebody comes in to pay their taxes, say, well, listen, you owe taxes, but you also owe $150 for parking tags, and you also owe a blight fine. Is there anything that enterprise-wise that could encompass all of that?
We don't have anything. I don't know if, like, a report were provided to us. We can probably note the system or mark it, flag it somehow. But our system, but without having we don't have the availability of the information right there. So we wouldn't even be able to say, oh, you have tickets with the PD too, you have to go there. That's not something that we have access to.
I think at one time they did some type of shared Excel sheet back and forth, but it's like anything else, right? You know, people leave, new people come, or it's just, you know, hand and paper around, they're outdated the minute you hit the send button. So it's,
Yeah,
it's always been a wish of mine that we could all communicate together.
understood.
So I know David has taken feverish notes to hopefully someday we'll have an enterprise system that could have different modules that we could share information.
I don't know what system the PD uses, but I know that our computer system has the capability to do parking tickets. I just don't know
Yeah,
what it
'cause-
would take to implement, or if they would be willing to use the same computer software.
Yeah, because I know they worked with your office when it was like beach sticker stuff, right? There's
Beach
some-
stickers we do, yes.
Yeah, so, but, all right, like I said, we just wanted to put it on the record. Anybody else for the tax manager?
And I
Yes.
just wanna say, it's not a question or anything, but anytime I, referred a taxpayer to you, you were able to resolve them and they were happy. That doesn't happen that much when people are happy paying taxes, but you've resolved a couple of problems without upsetting, so I just wanna thank you for that.
Oh, thank you.
That's all.
Thank you, Councilwoman Hamilton. So, seeing no other questions, thank you for coming,
Thank you so much.
and we are in recess until 6:30.
Thank you, Ray.
At 6:30, we are back in session. First up is the engineer for the engineering department. Abdul, if you could come up. I don't know if you have anything you want to highlight for us, or if you just want us to ask some questions. The engineer's budget's on page 75.
The only one I'd like to point out is the item professional services. I had requested 30,000, somehow I got only 1,000 here. 30.
Were you 75 or something?
76.
Sorry, thank you.
And Abdul, what would be the change from the current year that's $1,000?
We don't have any current year. This is a new item.
Professional license fees?
No,
Professional services
Oh,
above it.
services.
professional services.
So what would that entail?
If people request, like I have to get some survey done, I have no mechanism to pay for it.
You mean like another city department would request?
Yes.
So what have you done in the past?
I had transferred money from my assistant engineer's position to a separate account. I've been using that, that's almost gone.
Okay. So I did want to ask you about the assistant engineer. Do we have one?
No, we don't.
And we haven't had one for quite some time, right?
Yes, we can't get anybody.
So do we have an open job announcement for it?
We have advertised that we are not getting any applications.
Okay, so I guess, are we competitive in our salary? Are we gonna, or would we decide to use an outside firm to do what maybe an assistant engineer would do? I just don't know how, if you're doing this all by yourself. I think it's been, when was the last time we had an assistant engineer? It was a few years ago, wasn't
3
it?
years ago.
David, did you have something you wanted to?
Oh, I was just gonna say, there's an increase, obviously, in the salary that we're looking for next year.
But we
With the
still,
hope that we'd be a little more competitive.
we still not, we advertise this position and there is no applications.
I mean, I would, listen, I get it, you know.
Problem is, on private side, the salaries are much higher, so people don't go there. Also, we're looking for a combination of engineer and surveyor. There are not too many people in the field.
So we looked at maybe determining, the assistant engineer position is fine, and the surveyor we don't need, and we contract that out, or I don't know, it's just,
That's
it's been
my
on the budget
recommendation,
here
yes.
for
That's
a
what I
bunch,
would
and we have
suggest.
no activity, you know, so I think you're gonna need some help at some point. You know,
Yes,
you have a
we
lot of
definitely need help,
historical
yes.
data and knowledge, but, Hey, listen,
My
it's-
suggestion would be to just have engineer only, and survey, we can just have it, like $30,000 a year should be enough to pay for it.
anybody have any questions for the engineer and the engineering department, page number 76?
Yes.
Councilman Donovan.
So, Abdul, how you doing? Thank you for coming in. So you're saying that, you're suggesting is just hiring an assistant engineer, and then the surveyor, you were saying 30,000 separate? Hire a
Yes.
separate surveyor?
That's where I have a professional services, I can pay from that,
You're not doing that in your contracting.
outside
Is that,
surveyor, yes.
I'm saying that was my question, being contracted out, correct?
Yes,
So the 30,000 in professional services, you could use that for a surveyor, is that what you're saying? It's not in addition to the 30,000. You don't need 30 and 30, it'd just be 30.
no, just 30 for that.
Okay. I'm all set, Chairman. Thank you.
Chairman Massaro?
Oh, he answered a question, about wanted to make sure it was 30,000, I didn't hear it.
Okay. Abdul, MS4 mandate. So I've seen this for a lot of years, and I know it's, I think, a mandate from deep that we have certain requirements for water, right? Not sanitary, it's stormwater, right?
Yes.
So what is it that we have to do every year based on the requirements, and that equals this $250,000?
We have to investigate the entire city if there are any cross connections or illegal connections. We have to test all these outfall pipes, sample them and test them every year. So if we find some pollution in some of the samples, then we have to investigate where it's coming from. We have to do some TV survey and some infield services.
And this is done annually?
Yes,
And who do we contract to do that work?
it's a consultant right now.
And they provide you the reports, and the reports are
Yes.
filed with your office?
That's right, yes.
I'm sorry.
And are we mandated by dollar amount or by activity?
Activity, not the dollar amount.
Is this something exclusive to West Haven, or every community has to do this?
Every community has to do. Urban community, like rural towns, they don't have to do that.
Yeah. And it's through DEEP?
Yes. Plus, we're also under EPA consent decree, that's also part of it.
Mm-hmm. Any other questions for the engineering budget?
If I can get an assistant engineer, this number can come down. Okay? He can pick up a lot of work that he can do himself.
Listen, I think that's one of the most important positions out of the positions that we have in front of us. I mean, it's a significant position, it's needed, it's been needed for a couple of years. I'm glad we're serious about trying to put a dollar amount attached to it that maybe, you know, we'll get some interest. You know, we have an engineering school up the street, you know, that maybe could offer some assistance in the meantime. I don't know if we have any collaborations with the Tagliatelle School of Engineering at the university or not, but maybe it's a good place to start. Councilman Donovan.
Just a follow-up. So we have, that job is up now, correct?
Yes.
And at the 72,000?
No, 110,000.
Well, we didn't approve that.
I was gonna say, we didn't prove that yet, so if we get them, tell them
We
to hold on.
advertise to see if we can get somebody, but
That's what I'm saying, if somebody comes in tomorrow, say, all right, you know, I'll take the job, well, we gotta wait a minute.
well, because I have a 73,000 in the budget, we have not used any money, so even if we hire somebody, we have the budget to pay for it.
Okay, I see. Sorry.
Councilman Boris?
I don't know. Question. Are you saying that 110,000 is for somebody that was an assistant engineer and with a surveyor degree? Or if it's just an assistant engineer, would that number come down? Or that's just a number that,
No, even to get somebody with a license, 110 is not.
Still low?
And the private, you get 140 right now.
wow. Thank you, Jim.
Councilwoman O'Connor?
So, if you take the surveyor out of it, do you have to reword it and then repost it?
Yes.
So that'll take a couple of weeks.
Well, they have to negotiate with the union also, so.
So that'll take
take a
more than a
couple
couple of weeks.
Probably not that
No.
difficult
It's not difficult
with
now.
slotting it at the same place.
Because I would like to see that done sooner rather than later then, so we can get someone in here.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, so we'll transition over to water pollution. They're on page 113 of our budget book. But before we start, I think I'd ask Mr. Taylor to come up. Abdul had passed out a document in front of us this evening that I think he's going to explain.
Good evening officially. The budget book was published with a sewer use fee of 300, what's it? $495. $495. And we the two of us got our wires crossed, and it should have been 470, which is good news to everyone. So Abdul has passed out a document that I created for the 5-year plan, which is why it looks a little weird, but just showing the history up till today, and then a plan for next year, which gives us a sewer fee of 470.
So this is the budget that you would like us to adopt
Yes.
for the water pollution?
Right.
Okay. Would anyone like to give any opening remarks for the Water Pollution Control Commission, or would you just like us to jump into questions? I see, let me see, I don't want to do anybody any disservice, but we have Commissioner Canning here, who's the chair of the Water Pollution Control Commission. We have Commissioner De Palma here. We have Mark Magri, who's the acting administrator, I believe is the right title. And I don't know if we have anybody else. No? Okay. And we have Abdul, obviously, and is any opening remarks, or you want to just us to dig in? I know
Yeah.
typically this is an unusual format. You don't typically come in front of the council, but I think it's appropriate that we do. You're definitely have some needs and are going to be requesting some things, so I think it's important that we're up to speed on those things.
Yeah, the only, basically, not much change, except the 3-4 line items have changed significantly. The electrical bill has gone up. I put up additional $300,000 for it, because the electric rate has going up. The chemical, I increased also because the chemical has gone up considerably this year. And the big change is also on the sludge disposal. From 800, I make it a $1.1 million. So that's how much we're going to spend this year. So overall, it's about $450,000 increase from last year.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of my questions were derived on when I saw the 490, so I'm glad to see that it's not 490, that it's 470. Mr. Taylor, just process-wise, so in the recommended budget, it speaks to the 490, and I would imagine the revenue and expense lines are different than this document, so
Yes, they are.
I guess procedurally, I'm trying to make sure that as we go ahead and adopt the budget, I guess we would make a separate motion at the time that we do it to make sure that we adopt this budget for water pollution as opposed to the one that's in the book now, right?
Along with any other changes you would like.
Yeah,
to
right.
make, sure.
Okay, that's helpful. Any questions for Abdul or any member of the Water Pollution Commission that's here? Councilman Donovan?
I know, in the budget, and again, I'm asking because I know, I'm sure if somebody reads it, but fringe benefits, what is that?
That's like Social Security, health.
I'm just wondering if we should change the heading on that, that's all, it's just, fringe benefits doesn't,
Yeah.
to me anyways, I'm just saying, we just maybe somehow change that heading
It's not
on
an atypical word to use for that. It's
fringe
typical.
benefit, no, I know,
It's
it's,
typical
it's,
in the world.
It's their contractual benefits, right,
Yeah,
that.
Exactly.
yeah, I'm saying that,
Federal taxes.
it's just something that maybe we should, maybe name it that, that's all, I'm not. All right.
Just see what the city does.
I think that's all I have right now. Thank you.
All right. So, Abdul, I want to talk about Orange and our agreement with them regarding providing certain connections to our system, right? And I appreciate Mark gave me the contract before the meeting, but so anecdotally, right, we hear that our system is overtaxed, not in dollars, right, in use. We have significant major capital expenses that we're gonna have to look at, sooner rather than later. And anytime anybody ever comes into town to promote some type of housing development, this always comes up, right? But it seems that Orange pays, well, what does Orange pay a year? 500,000?
It varies. I mean, there are two elements for orange payment. One is the operation and maintenance cost. That's based on whatever we spend every year, and it's proportion based on the flow between the two towns. So it's roughly average around $380,000.
380?
Yes.
And that's a combination of payments by the individual people that are hooked up and the city, or in the town of Orange? How do we get to that number?
Orange collects their flow there. They have a flow meter on them, 2 pump stations that they have, which
Yeah.
is about 80% of their total flow through those stations. The rest of the area that's not going through those pump stations, they have direct connection to us, and they take the water meter reading from the Regional Water Authority, and they use that as their flow.
So as I drive down, and I kind of have an idea where what's connected to our system and what's not, but I think as you drive down the Post Road, a lot of those buildings are hooked up. Now, they had a strip mall on the corner of Racebrook Road. Do we go down to Racebrook Road? Do they connect in at Racebrook Road?
No, it's just the commercial area boundary. The new building they're building on that's part tied in already to the sewer system.
That is gonna be tied into?
Yes.
So that's my question. So we had a strip mall there that, had one bathroom for the couple of business that were open. And now we have this big apartment building going in, right, that's gonna tie into our system. And what monetary increase do we get out of that? I mean, what's
'Cause that flow will be monitored at the pump station, so their flow will increase and they will have to pay us more money. So everything is monitored.
and there's a formula that was figured out in 1985.
Yes.
And we haven't adjusted that formula since 1985?
We don't need to adjust it because the formula says you take the flow from Orange and take the flow from West Haven, whatever the ratio of those two, and take the total expenditure for the water pollution plant and the sewer system, and you proportion those costs.
Okay, so you take the 100% and whatever's West Haven, and then the rest is Orange.
Yes,
Right.
like in 1986 when they first tied in, they only paid us around $11,000. Now they're paying us $380,000.
All right, so it's based on, so this is good, I didn't know this, right? So I don't think a lot of people know this, because we don't really think about it, right? We push and then we hope everything is good. So, I lost my train of thought. So, we're monitoring the flows.
Yes.
So if they're putting up if they have a parking lot and all of a sudden they're putting up 300 apartment units, in theory, the flow would increase 300%,
Yes,
and they would pay that additional fee,
yes,
right?
yes.
Okay. It's exhausting, but it's good to know. So is there a need to refresh this contract for any other reason?
No. Well, they have requested some modifications because the contract is specific to a certain boundary area and certain they can tie in. They had some development which are outside those areas, so they want to tie in those systems. And I think 2 amendments have already been done before, and now they're asking a third one.
So I have a vacant piece of land in West Haven, and I put a house on it, and I want to tie into the city system. What do I pay?
$75.
No, you pay sewer use every year $470.
There's no
Yeah.
initial hookup fee, that's
There
the,
is a connection fee, very minor. I think it's $15 or $50. So
And is that typical in the business?
No, the other towns have a higher number.
Okay. So why wouldn't we be similar to those other towns?
We have to have a ordinance amended.
Is it an ordinance that's a
Yes.
city council ordinance, or is it an ordinance in water pollution, or?
No, there is a city ordinance that have a sewer connection fee.
So what's the average fee, hookup fee? Do you know?
That issue, yes, I can explain. Some
Oh,
towns,
you didn't answer my question.
no, I'm gonna, because
Okay, all
it's a
right.
complicated issue.
Okay.
Some towns, they own the lateral from the sewer to the street line. And from the street line back to the house is a private.
Mhm.
In West Haven, it's right up to the main line, the homeowner owns it. And he is responsible for maintenance, repair, everything. And
So
another
wait, let
town,
me stop, let me stop you a minute. So the connection pipe from my house to the main, which could be off my property, it could be on city property.
it is,
If
yes,
that breaks, I'm responsible for that.
yes.
Listen, I'm having a great time. I'm learning a lot here tonight, so, all right, so continue.
Like other towns, some towns have a 3,000, some have it based on the meter size, like New Haven. They go for anywhere from 3,000 to even 20 or $50,000. If it's a big industry, they charge higher number,
So right now, you said ours is how much?
$15 for house and $60 for commercial.
All right, so similar community would be who?
It should be around at least over $500.
$500. So what do we have to do to get somebody to look at the ordinance and bring it forward for a draft for us?
I guess the attorneys have to drop the ordinance and come up.
So there's an opportunity there. Right, I think the MARB is looking for opportunities, right? For us to increase our revenue that's sustainable. I think that's sustainable. I'll stop. Anybody else like to have a question for Abdul about water pollution?
Yeah, I do.
Yes, sir. Mr. Chairman?
Abdul, thanks for coming tonight. The nitrogen credit, that's gonna cease?
Yeah,
In
there's not
20
any credit left.
No credit left? That situation that you're talking about, hooking up, that came to my attention quite a while ago, about increasing the fees for hooking up to sewer lines for commercial and residential. But it had to be in the charter, had to change it in the charter. That came up a while ago,
There's usually not fees in the charter, though.
in the sewer charter. I knew about it.
Well, we'll definitely follow up to have somebody take a look at that, because
Yeah.
it seems like it's well out of date, that number.
I'm done. Thanks.
Thank you. I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman. Get excited about this stuff.
About money.
So, does anybody else have a question? I'm gonna continue. So I know from learning that there are various ways that we handle our waste in order to dispose of it, right? I know you have a press, I know you have a centrifuge, I know at the end product we truck out. I think I may not be perfectly correct, but I think that's the gist of it. And I also know that we have an outflow pipe about a mile long that's in disrepair, that potentially, the numbers I heard, we could build a school for the price of putting a pipe in.
Yes.
So, I guess my thought is that depending on what that end product is, does that adjust the length of the pipe that's needed? And I only ask that question because we're spending a lot of money, on some things we have to, right? We have to update the plant, and we have to make sure we're doing things efficiently, but I know we're trucking stuff out there, but I also know that we still have, although not active, we have an incinerator at that plant, right?
Yes,
And do we still have an active approved permit from DEEP to operate that incinerator?
yes, till August this year.
And what happens in August?
Supposedly,
They're gonna take a
decision
bid.
for us, they're gonna take the permit if we don't do something.
Mark, you wanna come up just so it's on? So I know this is interesting stuff, everybody's gonna wanna hear it. So say that again about the permit?
I filled out the last permit papers. They told us if we do not make a decision, but by this August, they're gonna make the decision for us and pull the
So if we
permit.
don't use the incinerator, they're not gonna re-up
They're not
the
gonna
permit.
renew the permit.
And what would it take? Is mechanically, does work need to be done?
A lot of work, yes. We were at, probably about 5 years ago, was 3 million for our scrubber. We're probably up to about what? 10
Good,
million?
11 million
10,
probably.
11 million now. The problem is, in 5 years, there's gonna be no land left. We're gonna either put our sludge on a rail car and pay double what we're paying right now, or we're gonna put it on a barge and we're gonna ship it. And we're gonna pay triple what it is right now. So, everybody who Cinegrow, which is where we're taking now, to Naugatuck, Waterbury, in 5 years, they're telling us they're gonna be nothing left for us.
This is like a trash conversation. So
Yes.
you would think that people much higher than us and our pay grade, right? This isn't just what's going on in West Haven. It's going on
It's
in every
all
single community. It's going on in every single state probably, or at least the northeastern
Yes.
states, right? What do we do with our stuff, right? So I don't think the right answer is dump it on somebody else, but that's what we're doing, right?
Yes.
So
I can give you an example. We have no control of this. We're under contract with Cinegrow and H.I. Stone trucks it. So what happens is if Naugatuck shuts down or they have an emergency, their burner goes down, we automatically go on where we got to ship it out of here and pay triple, or put it on a rail car. We have no control over that. We go by whatever they.
And what's the guidance from the industry or from the state or from the federal government? I mean, again, we're all, listen, the trash, like it or not, there are ways for us to mitigate some of the volume of the trash, right? This is a whole different ballgame over here, right? So
We have a percent of solids that we have to maintain. We have to maintain between 18 and 25%,
Right.
or they won't even accept it from us. If we go less than that, they reject it, and it sits on our property. We got to figure somewhere for it to go. So right now, we've got to meet this guideline. We stay between 18 and 25%, so they'll take it.
So there's no emergent new technology or,
There is, but it's.
There is, we're looking at it.
all right, tell me.
EPA is not they don't like incineration.
Right.
They have made so strict effluent guidelines that it's very costly. Like, we were going to upgrade for $3 million, and now because they told us that we have made some improvement to the incinerator over the year, because originally it was built in 1973, and we made modification in 1985 and 2005. The criteria they told us, if you spend more than 50% of the original cost, then they will consider it a new source. And the difference between the old and new source is about 10 times strict. So from 3 million, we went up to like 9 million.
So I guess this is rhetorical, but what's the answer? So when, as Mark said, when the company says, you know what, we're full, no more, or whatever, we got shut down by DEEP, no more, and we can't, there's no place that we could find on a rail car to truck it to. I mean, who's thinking about
The
this
state of
stuff?
Connecticut hasn't even told us. I'm sorry, Abdul, we just had a situation where I was luckily, one of our vendors, McVac Environmental, hooked me up with somebody in New Jersey, but we paid 4 times the amount to have McVac truck it to New Jersey. We paid for the truck, and then we paid for them to incinerate it. And the problem is they want mercury? The big thing is mercury in the air. That's what the new scrubber,
Now they have a nitric oxide and sulfur dioxide.
Dioxide also, yeah.
I mean, we can meet those criteria, it's gonna cost us money. Once we lose the permit, then we will not get permit back.
We will be locked into this for the rest of West Haven's
Yes.
life.
And listen, I know we don't, I could spend hours on this stuff, but I know we don't have a lot of time, and I'll defer the floor, but just like I asked before about the hookup fee, what's everybody else doing, right? So what's New Haven doing? Are they incinerating? What are they doing?
New Haven, Synagro runs their incinerator, and they dump for free. That basically, it's New Haven running their own, MD's, Greater New Haven.
Right, they have a bunch of Hamden, East Haven, I
Right,
think,
yeah.
right?
There are three, Metabassett has about 16 or 20 towns that go to them, and Hartford has, I think, 15 or 20 towns also going to them. But they are up to their maximum capacity, they will not accept from us. We tried it, they say they have no room for us.
And how about Milford? Do they do their own, or they have a relationship with somebody?
They have a relationship with somebody, I think they were with Syngro. I think.
Synagro, yep, everybody's pretty much Synagro. There is a potential too, nobody wants to see it, but there is a potential to make money. If we were burning, we could take sludge from other towns and do exactly what these people are doing.
So are we the only town that are kind of self-reliant?
Somewhat.
No, I mean, there are a lot of, I mean, there are 70 towns that's, they don't have the incinerator, they're shipping it to different, they have an agreement with the, either Hartford or Metabassett or Syngro.
Right.
I mean, we have a lot of risks that we've identified, but this is I think this is a significant risk and a significant cost center here. I mean, just to talk about, we're talking about these numbers like they're, like I said, we could build a school for the price of fixing a pipe, right?
That's like, right now, it's $60 million.
60 million for the pipe.
60.
It's up to 60 now.
You're talking 25 million to the flood hardening around the plant. You're talking probably another, what, 5 or 10 million for the main pump station? 10 million? So you're talking 100 million in the next 10 years.
10 for the plant and 5 for the incinerator
On top of that.
There's nothing saved by putting the
Well,
incinerator.
I would hope that there'd be 90 million in grants, because, I mean, at the end of the day, listen, I get it, regulations are important, right? We want to keep the health and safety of everybody, but there comes to a point where everybody's got to get in a room and figure out a solution, right?
Yes.
Because I mean, we're just pushing kicking the can down the
Councilman,
road.
I'm sorry, there is one, and he knows better than I do. It's called, what, gasification?
Yeah, we're looking at it,
into
yes.
that also.
It's a new process, it's not been, there's only one installation in Seattle, Washington, that's it.
But it's even more expensive than,
It is more expensive than
but
installation, yes.
the end product, we would not have to get rid of it at a sanitary landfill. You basically get rid of it at a regular landfill. So that brings your cost down instead of taking it. Like right now, we pay to get rid of this sludge. We pay to get rid of our grit at a sanitary landfill. We pay to go to all these places because there's nowhere to get rid of it.
Anybody else have a question for water pollution? Councilwoman Hamilton?
Thank you, gentlemen, for being
Yes.
here. How is the Chestnut,
Chestnut is done. We're just waiting on the pavement. Layden is gonna pave it, right, Abdul?
Yeah,
That's what I was told. Layden's gonna, while they're out paving, now they're gonna pave that road, so,
all under control?
yeah,
That's
everything's good.
Good job.
Thank you.
How
Yes.
about payment? Is everything paid for?
nothing has been paid yet.
Nothing has been paid.
Oh, so they can just come back and just undo things.
We went round, we went round and round for about 2 months. We were told that they were gonna take it out of ARPA, and then we were told it doesn't meet the guidelines. So 3-4 days ago, I was handed a full packet from Ken Carney of all the bills from this whole thing. I got vendors that wanna get paid. So now I'm being told we gotta go in front of the city council, come to you guys and ask for 500,000 we're gonna ask for? or
No,
more?
it's more than that.
More than
now.
that, okay.
It's, right now it's over 800,000.
Okay.
Well, I don't know, I mean, I was told, I haven't seen it, that it's $200,000 bill from the police department
Yes, for overtime.
for overtime.
And they sent you to us?
We have to pay.
I'm just
Yeah.
saying.
Mm-hmm.
We're gonna
Yes.
figure that out.
It's gonna be close to $1 million.
Abdul had it on the agenda, but then we were told it was gonna be paid out of ARPA, so he took it off. And now we have all the bills sitting there again.
We had to transfer money from the reserve account to operating account to pay for it.
I don't have anything else.
And this is something for all of us here to think about. This could happen again tonight. It could happen tomorrow. We have bigger lines than this that are in worse shape. The road could cave in tomorrow, we could be in the same boat.
So I want to jump off that if I can. So I mean, I know we're under a consent decree, right? So I think is there a requirement that we have to inspect these
Yes.
lines every so often? So-
I'm sorry, we meet our quota, but the problem is when we find something, the money to be able to fix that isn't there.
I mean,
So
we're
did
doing
we-
it
We're doing
gradually.
it, right, but
So did we know that the pipe was in the shape that was in on Chestnut Street?
No, this pipe was not TV inspected
Right.
because we didn't have the camera to inspect that big
we don't have the
lines.
equipment to inspect it, so we've gotta sub that out to like a McVac, a bigger company, to do that.
So wouldn't we prioritize the bigger arteries, if you will, from the smaller ones? I mean, this seems to be, what was it, 24? 24?
It was a 21-inch line,
Yeah.
and now we've increased it to a 24.
So that's a big, that's an artery, right?
Yes.
So I mean, I would think that we'd probably prioritize to see what our arteries look like, right? Just on our own body, right?
Yes.
No,
You know,
we started doing it right now. I mean, we're looking at it right now.
Yeah, we're looking at hiring companies to come in and, TV, clean, and then we'll have the video to be able to see what we need to repair.
and
It's
then
too
you have
big
an
for us.
internal process, so you say, oh, listen, chief, the Campbell Avenue, we have a huge pipe, then it needs, certain repair. So then, what does that go through? Your internal
It would have to
workings
be-
of the water pollution, and then the
put out the bid.
commission, and then,
I think we looked at all the area that we suspected might have an issue. I don't think we have any left. The issue becomes where the pump station, law enforcement pumps into the sewer line. That's where the problem comes in because hydrogen sulfide is released at that point and it becomes sulfuric acid on the top of the pipe, and that's where the pipe got damaged.
and we have a grant for what? Two replacement of two of them? What, East Avenue and
East Avenue,
Dawson?
Dawson Avenue, yes.
Yeah, those pump stations, those are smaller lines, they're like 12 inch. Our big line enforcement that I was concerned about is from Dawson Avenue to 7 Avenue.
Avenue.
That's about 8,000 feet long. And asbestos pipe, there have been 3 failures on that
Already.
line already. But there is no mechanism to inspect that line. The only, we have to make a schedule that at some point we have to replace that line.
There's no mechanism to inspect it. You can camera the
The,
line?
the
No,
line
because
isn't
it's always
closed.
full.
It's
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 full-
always
it's
full, so
always
we
running.
you'd have to actually shut the pump station down
Gotcha.
to be able to,
I got you.
yeah.
How long was it? 8,000 feet?
It's from Dawson to Savin.
Yes.
Alrighty. Anybody else? Councilman Donovan?
Yeah, I just wanna get back to the permit again, cause I kinda got lost, but I didn't wanna, again, I'm very intrigued about it. So, if we don't do something at the sewer treatment plant with this permit, it goes away? Is
Yes.
that correct?
Lose it.
And
We're
then,
gonna
once
lose
we lose that, forget it, 'cause I know
Can't get
that.
it back.
You'll never get it back
Never get it
again.
back.
So what is it that we have to just start something, or does it have to be totally completed?
We had to make a decision. In 2017, EPA came to us that we are not meeting their regulations, and they put a notice to us. And we were discussing to modify the incinerator, and that's why we went back and forth with EPA. And they say it's going to be a new source, and we thought we should fight it in court, but city decided not to because it's long, lengthy process, costly process, we win or not. So we told them, EPA told them, we are not using it. So that case is still pending, but stopped because we're not using it. If we tell them that we have to use it, then the new process starts. And we have to make a decision by August, tell them, look, we want to upgrade our incinerator. Then they will give us, permit will stay, but we have to modify it. We have to give them a schedule when we are going to do, and we have to test it, and that will work.
We've had, what, 2 or 3 studies that basically have gone nowhere. We got a grant, Doug Coulter got us a grant for $175,000. It didn't go anywhere. We had a study for ourselves, the commissioners, and then wanted $30,000 just to look at the incinerator, have an engineering firm say, look, what would it cost? We still haven't done that either, just to say, get the final number.
Why haven't we done
Voted at the
that?
last meeting to go with the incinerator. We took a look at all the options that were available.
Do you mind coming up to the podium so everybody can hear? I'm sorry.
Bill Canning, Chairman, Water Pollution Control Plant. And we last meeting, we voted to go with the incinerator as the option. Nobody likes the smoke that comes out, but the smoke has to be cleaned, has to meet EPA guidelines, DEP guidelines, and federal guidelines. It seems to be the most cost-effective treatment at this point in time. Until we get new information and lower costs, then it could change. Going back to 2006, or when they decided, hey, we're going to truck it out and not use the incinerator, trucking was cheap. Today, land, try to get rid of trash, try to get rid of sewage, it's filling up. We're buying farms, we're building condos, everything's progressing at a faster rate. We're putting out more garbage, a lot of carcinogens, a lot of plastics, everything. And so we thought long and hard. We know nobody likes, you don't want to smell it. But when it's being processed that way, you save on the trucking costs. We won't be at the risk of having somebody holding a gun to our head saying, you have to dump it here. Because after everything fills up here, it's down south, it's in the ocean. Where do we put it?
I'll give you my scenario was, I've been there 37 years, is when Billy Norton and these guys, Abdul, our first line of defense was the incinerator. If we went to second line of defense was we put sludge in the dumpster and we took it out. Our third line was we sent a tanker full of just liquid. We lost that first option, so now we've only got 2 options. If we go down, or they could tell us we can't take cake, you've got to send a 6,000 gallon tanker, which is more money. That's our only second option right now. So
what, I'm sorry, who was somebody on the floor? Councilman Donovan.
And I was just gonna say, so we can't use the incinerator?
right now it's totally.
Well, no, I know, not right
Yeah.
now. We can get that up and running, obviously with the funds.
Now, we have to spend $11 million to make it run.
Yeah.
No, I get that. I got about $7, $8 on me, I can start it, but, and there's no other grants, nothing like that we know of?
I think what we heard, 2%, they would give us the loan or something like that.
Hey,
All right.
it's better than the.
If it's
than-
eligible, I don't think deep saying on its own it's not eligible. If it's part of another project for the water pollution, then it will be eligible. 20% grant and 80% no.
And now, once we get that, say we get that money, we get it up and running, we could take other towns in and make money off of them.
If we do it right.
Okay. There's the bump in the road, right? But again, if we do it right, which I hate assuming, obviously we know what that happens, but I'm going to assume that we do it right, and we do start taking in other towns. Would that generate enough money to kind of like pay for itself in the long run? I'm not saying within a year, but.
The issue is if we accept other town, we have to modify the permit, because then we have to include that other town with it.
But it's still gonna be, I know in the long run, 11 million is a lot of money to everybody, but I know it's gonna be 3, 4, 5, maybe even more, within 10, 15 years, hauling, that money's just gonna go away, and we gotta get that money somewhere no matter what. I'd like to stop that bleeding.
We can save the money. If we had an upgraded incinerator, we would be saving the money. We are paying, with the incinerator, I figured at 2017 was around $600,000 to incinerate and pay back the money.
Yeah.
And now we are almost over $1 million paying, go ship it outside.
So we would've saved
More than
already.
saved,
We
yeah.
would've
Yeah.
already saved plus,
$500,000 or more.
Yes.
at least.
The fuel surcharge too, I mean, they pack on so much now, it's just.
Shit. All right, I'm all set for now.
Councilwoman
We
O'Connor?
could talk about, like I said, Ronnie, we
Yeah.
could talk about this forever, so.
So, you said the reason that it's gonna be 11 million is because it's gonna cost more than 50% of what we paid to build it in 1973?
Yes.
What did we pay in 1973? Do you know off the top of your head?
It's less than $1 million.
Less than $1 million? All right. So, because we have to bring it all up to code then, because it's so old.
Yes.
I hate saying that 1973 was very old, but, all right, thank you.
Councilman Boris?
I don't know, so in your opinion, it's basically worth trying to get this fixed. Otherwise, we're in trouble.
You basically, with that, you control your own destiny.
Yes.
We go from, right now, we take a 60-yard dumpster to Naugatuck, you're gonna go to a little 10-yard dumpster that we can empty ourselves and put it to a regular landfill.
The
All
cost
that other
savings
stuff goes away.
will take a while before it comes back, but in the long run, it's more beneficial. If something else comes up before that, we'll jump on it. You know, if it's cost effective, you gotta think of, the costs are only gonna go up.
So I think that what's on your mind is we don't wanna lose that permit. That's the main goal
Right,
right now. We
right.
can't lose that permit, otherwise all our options are down.
Then you only have one option, and you gotta take it or leave it.
Thank you, guys. I'm done, Chairman.
So, at the end of the day, you're all the professionals. You're gonna determine what's the best, right, strategy. But it seems to me that if, who's it, EPA wants confirmation that you're gonna use the incinerator, wouldn't minutes from your last meeting that says that you voted that you wanna use the incinerator count as giving them notice that we wanna use the incinerator and they'll renew your permit?
The good thing is permit is from deep, not from EPA.
Okay.
So EPA can't take it
Right,
out.
so deep, right. But is that a,
They will probably scream, but
look, at the end of the day, you may
We have to meet that
determine it's not the
criteria.
best thing to do,
The
but,
problem is, Chairman, we haven't sent any of this to them. We haven't, because nobody's made a decision and said, that's the way we're going.
but you, all, the three of you are the decision makers, aren't you? We're not the decision makers.
The commission.
The commission.
is, and the commission voted to go that way.
Right.
And I wanna meet with the guy from Deep, and I asked Mark to, contact him
Craig
for me.
Nikowski, I have a meeting.
And then we
soon, so-
sit down and talk. I wanna go visit other incinerators throughout the state.
And you may determine it's not the best strategy to use the incinerator for whatever the reason, but I hate to just give up the permit.
I need to
Right.
do the homework and the research first. I think that's important, that we know what the other people are doing. I mean, Ford knows what Chevy's doing. It's the same type of thing. We wanted to find out how other municipalities are handling it.
yeah, within probably next month, I'm gonna have a report that is gonna tell us whether we should go with incinerator or what EPA is pushing for is a digestion. And the third option, I'm looking at it, is a new, as I mentioned in Seattle, is a one outfit.
Gasification.
If that works, that's the best option. It's expensive than incinerator, but there is hardly any product left. 95% is gone. It's only 5% versus incinerator, we still have about 20% solids.
And do any of those strategies change having to replace that outflow pipe the way it's being designed?
No, the outfall pipe has nothing to do with, this is the solid portion of it.
Right,
Nothing
and the
to-
outflow pipe is what, the treated
Treated
water?
Water
That's
that goes
strictly
out,
water.
yeah.
You gotta have.
Listen, I just can't, I'm struggling wrapping my arms around how a pipe costs $60 million,
Yeah,
you know? So that's a conversation for another day. Like I said, that's a school and a community, half a community center, so. Yes, Chairman.
Outflow pipe that has to be replaced, 60 million. 1973 to do the incinerator, the way I'm sitting here listening to this, was less than $1 million to construct. Here we are in 2023. Since 1973, the same old story, like cities that had pensions don't keep up with them. So in other words, the cities before us, whoever was in charge at the time, did not want to upkeep this incinerator. So now we're in the hole for $11 million because we didn't upkeep it and to save the taxpayers money in the future. Typical city of West Haven again. I mean, you know, people that get into this office, and I'm talking that office, realize and don't sit down and think that the things that break down or should be upkeep around here to save the people's money is going by the wayside. And it's ridiculous. Now $11 million to fix an incinerator so you can keep your permit. And they won't give you the permit unless that thing is working.
They
That's
have a whole system in there that they actually, when we're burning, they monitor us. They could actually shut us down. So it's not just we're gonna be sitting there doing what we wanna do. There's a whole computerized system that the state, or the DEP
Yes,
is
the
watching us
EPA,
while we're
yes.
putting out that stack. They could shut us down like that.
So we're running that sewer plant day by day, that someday they could shut us down if they feel like it. So we're just running it as much as we can until something happens.
Right now, yeah, we're basically keeping our head above water right now. There's a lot of things broken. There's a lot of things that we fixed. We spent a lot of money down there, and we're still got a lot more money.
Just aggravates me that things like that happen. That's it. I'm done.
Okay, Chairman. Councilwoman Hamilton?
All right, staying on this $11 million project, let's just say we got a windfall and we went that way. How long would it take to get the incinerator up and going? How
At
long does
least
that take?
2 years.
Oh, 2 years. The story's getting better and better.
I mean, we could be here all night. The problem is, we don't even know if our building is gonna be able to take what we need to do. The building is in very bad shape.
Now we need to
The
build.
building is,
We have to expand the building.
yeah.
All right. I have no more questions, because every question I have is cost me millions. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Anybody else? Listen, we'd love to have you guys back again in the future, because I think that's, listen, all kidding aside, it's a significant conversation, and to the chairman's point, right, these are huge ticket items that have kind of just been held together with tape and glue, as opposed to have a regular maintenance, I mean, this is our infrastructure. I mean, you could go to the sewer plant, you could go to the roads, the bridges, whatever it is, it's the same story all the time. Everything is held by tape and glue.
I have to tell you, we should have at least a minimum of a 5-year plan.
Yeah.
Minimum.
So
I got one more
we can
question.
invite them
Oh, it's
to
too late,
come.
I'm sorry, no.
We can invite them
The
to
way
come
the
to
federal
meeting.
government talks about the future of the environment and all this stuff, is there any way you guys could get a grant from the federal government to help us as far as that $11 million?
Just for the outflow pipe, we went to the Army Corps of Engineers, and they basically told us,
No.
no, you're on your own.
Okay.
Well, we still applying, and we still have a hope. We don't know if we can get it. We apply to FEMA. If we get that grant, that's 75% grant and 25% we have to pay. We are also eligible for Clean Water Fund, which is a 20% grant and 80% loan at 2%. That's eligible for outfall pipe.
Thank you, gentlemen.
30 more seconds. So the treated water that leaves the plant, there has to be somebody wrote some regulation that it has to go out to the channel, right, a mile away, as opposed to a half a mile, 3/4 a mile, a third of a mile. Why?
Unless it's cleaner.
because when we send this pipe, we are chlorinating at the plant, and we don't have a big tank to have a 50-minute detention time, and we're using the outfall pipe as a detention pipe. So that has to stay there for 15 minutes before we would
In the pipe, the
discharge.
longer it's in the pipe, the more chlorine it absorbs.
Yes. And
So-
secondly,
Wouldn't it be more cost effective to have a chlorinator in the plant instead of extending the pipe out
We do.
for a
we
mile?
do have
We do have
chlorinator, we're doing it at the plant, but it's, tankers
Our
are not
tanks are
big
too
enough.
small. Our tanks were built in the sixties, so we only have like 3 tanks. We would need probably 6, 8 tanks to be able to chlorinate long enough.
Well, we're not gonna find the answer tonight, but I'm hoping that you'll come back soon and tell us that it's not 60 million, it's much less, it's not 11 million, it's much
200
less.
million.
We've
Why?
come up with this great new initiative and idea, and we'll be all ears, all right, Mark?
Yes, Ron, thank you.
Thank you, Abdul, Bill, thank you.
Thanks, guys.
That was fun.
Wow.
We don't need a minute to get in the zone? Okay.
We're just less than 1%.
Okay, we're still on, so, want to thank the library for patiently waiting while we had that discussion.
Um,
I do have some packets to pass around, if
Sure.
I can do that.
Yes, so we can ask for this in the last quarter, right before the new person comes in. I'll talk to Richie about it and he'll feel important. I like him though.
Thank you.
Now you're coming.
Yeah, so good. Yeah. I know, I'm on antis right now too, so.
Well, I know that was a lot to process. I mean, I was only here for part of that, so yowza. So I just passed out some packets for some information that was requested from us from the library. It has some of our yearly stats, has documentation I was asked to give about our budget, our 5-year fiscal plan that we submitted to City Council a couple of months ago, as well as the year-to-date expenses from February up to February of '23. I apologize, I'm kind of getting over something, not quite sure what.
Join the club.
Yes. So for fiscal year '22, we were 0.8% of the total budget. State recommendation for libraries is 1.5%. We would actually ideally be in good shape if we were at 1%, which is similar to the ask that New Haven's also asked for this coming year. For fiscal year '22, which is what all these numbers are based off of, our budget was 1.421 million. For fiscal year '22, we were open 48 hours. This past year, thanks to actually receiving the budget that we had requested, we were able to increase the library's hours and our staffing to be able to be open to 56 hours per week, putting us where we should be for a city of this size. I really don't want to see the library go backwards to the point when we were below 50 hours again. As you can see, staffing is the largest piece of our budget, which is 75% of our total operating budget. We cannot do any of the programs, collection development, or assistance that we offer without our staff. And our wages are dramatically lower than our library counterparts and with staff at City Hall as well, with our salaries being between 4 and 25% lower than others. Our turnover rate continues to be extremely high. We're averaging at least 50% every year, and this past year it was as high as 30%. I don't think we've been fully staffed since 2020 at this point. And staff are leaving for similar positions in neighboring towns, which is it's always distressing to see someone leave for the same position in another town. We will also be going into contract negotiations soon. I do not know where those will end up. Our lowest salaried employees are also barely above the minimum wage, which will be going up again in June. We did ask for an 8% budget that would help cover this increasing in salaries, in addition to increasing costs for our basic utilities and the cost of supplies that everyone's kind of seeing across the board. We're We're still not quite at our pre-pandemic visits, but we're getting there every day. During spring break, as one example, our children's department saw well over 100 people in that department every day. So we're seeing a lot more people coming into the library. Our Wi-Fi usage is already back to its 2020 levels. People are coming in to use our computers, are by and large people who need assistance. And as West Haven still has a connectivity rate of about 80% of having internet access at home, that leaves 20% without having any access at home. Our collection circulation is also steadily increasing, and our ebook collections actually make up 28% of our circulation, which is actually pretty high. In addition, we offer Libby, which is through Overdrive, through our consortium, which we pay into every year. We offer a number of other additional services, such as lending with Hoopla and Canopy. Hoopla contains ebooks, audio, and music, and Canopy has collections of TV shows and movies, which are a lot of things that you cannot get on DVD. Our reference department has been close to again, seeing numbers very close to pre-pandemic. With more than half of the people that are coming in are needing help with technology, whether that's how to set up an email address, how to submit a resume. You figure you cannot apply to Burger King. When our staff were helping those people apply for Burger King, they're actually making more if they were to go to Burger King, which is really sad. And our staff are the ones helping those people apply for those positions. We continue to also offer a number of databases, including Help Now for homework help for students, and as well as Vet Now for veterans assistance. This year we also did add Novelist, which is to help assist patrons looking for materials that they may be looking to check out. Our children's department has started doing school visits again, and we've also had many classes coming from the elementary school coming to the library, and our staff actually doing outreach going into those elementary schools as well. We had our newest outreach librarian, who started in February, is making regular visits to the senior center and the daycares in town, and we'll be doing several programs in conjunction with Parks and Rec over the course of the summer. She's also a large part of our Digital Navigator program. Our Digital Navigator program has been funded through ARPA funds, which is how we were able to make the outreach librarian full-time. That program, in essence, is once people have signed up for the program, they get to sit down with a one-on-one session with some staff, and after 3 of those sessions, they do walk away with a laptop. We did also add some hotspots to be in conjunction with that program, so people can see firsthand how important and vital it is to be able to have internet use in their homes. And that's in addition to the 20 other hotspots that we also loan to the public on a regular basis as well. There's always a hold list for those hotspots that we loan out. Let's see. As far as capital projects from the endowment this past year, we upgraded the monitoring system for our HVAC system at the main library due to the end of life for the equipment. We were told the equipment was so old that we had to replace it. And we also had to replace the very loud, inefficient boiler for the same reasons. That did come out of endowment funds, which was no cost to the taxpayers of West Haven. 2 weeks ago, the elevator at the main library had the short-circuited. The computer died that runs the elevator, so it will not talk to any of the other floors. And we're in the process of getting that replaced. That will also come out of the capital endowment funds, which will not be charged out to, will not go through capital projects through the city. We will pay that through endowment funds. Through block grant funds, we are looking to redoing the main library parking lot, hopefully very soon. We are working in conjunction with Mark Nasakia in the block grant office about having that project done. I'm hoping within the next few weeks to a month. Also this year, through block grant funds, we are looking to bring a social worker on staff to assist for patrons, dealing with de-escalation tactics and staff training. We are seeing an increasing number of people coming in for assistance that's beyond the help librarians can give. The social work skills are needed for filling out forms like for food stamps, housing assistance, and Medicare. And having a social worker on staff will have somebody who's properly trained in how to fill those forms out. Our staff can lead people to those materials, but we can't necessarily help them with that. Through endowment funds, we did purchase 634 Orange Avenue for the new Allentown Library location back in June of '22. We are working with the Allentown Fire Department on a potential building, which will save significantly in construction costs and be beneficial for both of us. We did meet with some of the state delegations this past week and would like to meet with all of you in the coming weeks as well about the project as we get some more information together about what the cost will truly be for that building. This past November, we added a toy library thanks to a grant through Traveling Toys. They received 2 donations through the Community Foundation for the grant to purchase the toys. The toys have been incredibly successful, and staff have noticed that many people coming into the library to use the toys are new to the library. The collection includes games, toy sets, and switches for teens. We are now one of 5 libraries in the state to implement such a program. And finally, we are one of 6 libraries in the state chosen to work with Libraries Without Borders, which is an international organization assisting libraries reach more patrons in different ways. We are currently in the discovery phase of this project where they're speaking to staff and residents about the library. Through this, we hope to determine to have an outreach project within town. I'm really pushing to see that project be in Allingtown to help reach those residents that we have not been able to reach since the Allingtown Library closed. And our participation in this program was actually featured on Channel 8 News a few weeks ago, so it was nice to see a positive story about West Haven be out there. And with that, that is my quick and dirty rundown of the library for this year, and I am sure there are questions.
Thanks, Colleen. So I guess I want to ask a question about the process for union negotiations. So you have, obviously, who's unionized? Everybody but you?
So everyone but me and the assistant director, Catherine, are in this, they're in the same local unions, Local 393, under the Village Improvement Association of West Haven.
And so, is there any city representation on the negotiating team?
No, the negotiating team is consisted of myself, the assistant director, as well as board members.
So I guess my question is how would you know what to I don't know what comes first, the chicken or the egg. If you're negotiating, are you negotiating now?
We are just in the process of beginning to get ready to sit down with the union to begin our negotiations. I know that, again, we can't really discuss, obviously, negotiations.
Yeah, I don't want to know
but-
specifics, but I'm just trying to understand the process. So if you go and negotiate a certain wage increase, but yet the city didn't give you the money for that wage, how does that typically work in the past?
We do the negotiations, we try to work with, we'll look at what other libraries and other institutions are getting as far as salaries, and again, our salaries are very low in comparison.
No,
to-
and I agree. I agree. I'm just trying to figure out the process piece. So, because we have that kind of bifurcated line, right? That if you negotiate a wage without knowing what the budget is, I don't know how. That's why I'm kind of asking, like, from your past, you must have negotiated this 3-year contract.
3-year contracts, and before I was director, I was on the other side.
All right. So what happens? So how do you negotiate?
So once we do the negotiations, when I sit down with the board and the finance committee to look at the budget, we'll say, okay, so here's where our salaries are.
Yeah.
And our salaries are the largest nut from our budget, so we may have to look at doing cuts in other places. So we may be looking at, if a staff member leaves, we're not gonna replace that staff member because we have to be able to meet the budget.
So
And
you
if
try
we're-
to back
if we're-
into the wage increase
Right.
by kind of, unfortunately taking away from somewhere
Right, so
else.
we don't want to take, we're actually in a really good place right now with the databases that we're offering, with the services that we're offering, with the hours that we're open. We have a really awesome staff that are really dedicated to the library. They love working in West Haven. The number of resignation letters that I receive, and they're glowing about how much they love the library, but they're going to get paid twice as much to go to Hamden or North Haven or Stratford. And you can't blame them. You can't blame them for leaving.
No,
And
I
I
get
mean-
it, and 3 or 4 departments before you have come to us and say, we can't attract or keep people because our wages are low. I mean, I get it, it's the nature, so I'm not arguing with you regarding that. I agree that the wages are low. I just was trying to understand the process on how, if you only get a set pot of money, like, in the
Yeah.
city, for example, right, there's always some contingency somewhere, right? Because they know that union negotiations are coming up. But whatever you get is what you get, and how you use it is how you use
Well,
it.
yeah, what sometimes ends up happening is that's where we look at, things like our online databases are usually the first things to go. Then we may be looking at hours on Saturdays in the summertime, because we can shave off a few $1,000s. We're shaving few thousands of dollars here or there. But our medical insurance is what our medical insurance is. The 401k is what the 401k is. And after our salaries, the next largest number that we're paying out is for medical. The actual true operating cost for the utilities of the actual library when we're open is a small number. We've done LED lighting, we've done a lot of things to help make things more efficient as much as we possibly can. But we're at bare, we can't really go much lower than where we are.
So the two items that are new, the two requests, utilities are pretty, it's understandable, right? Electric, everything's
Right.
kind of going through the roof. We're seeing that in the city budget. So the 335 for operations, what's in that bucket? Is
Operating-
that wage anticipated wage increases?
So which one are you looking at?
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm looking at your budget. On page 98 in our budget, it says, new account operations, 335,485. The mayor didn't recommend any money. She recommended this 1.625, and then looks like two other accounts are broken out, but there was no
So
recommended fund.
this past year was the first year when the former finance director told me, all I want to see is from this. I actually added breaking it out between utilities and operations, because I feel that having our budget say just regular wages is not telling the true picture of what the library's.
Right.
It's not all regular wages. It's the utilities and the operations.
Right.
The operations, again, is our database costs, it's our ILS fees for running the system that we use to be able to have books in the library and have the DVDs.
But are there new things in that number? So that's a new number, 335, it was never asked for before, 335, 485. It says recommended.
No,
and then-
I've just broken it out differently than it's been done in the past. So in the past, everything was put on that wage line item. I've just broken it up so that you can see
So a normal request would have been 1.7 whatever, as
Right.
opposed to this 1.6, 78,
Correct.
and 335.
Correct.
I don't know if you did yourself a service by doing that, to be honest, at least to this stage of the game, right? Because I think whoever, and I can't speak for them, but I think whoever was looking at the department requests, those are new line items, and we can't afford to add new line items, we're gonna zero it out. So you see what I'm talking from? Do you have the same page I have?
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
He gave it to
okay.
me.
So you notice that she did reduce the top line.
Yeah, the top line's reduced significantly. So I've reduced what the regular wages looks like. And regular wages includes the medical, 401k, that has everything that's involved with wages. Utilities, again, that's just basic utilities. That's the telephone, that's our networking costs, which we do E-rate funding, and we get, I want to say it's 80-90% back for that. So we're paying almost nothing for our networking right now. And electric and gas.
But
And then
unless my
everything
math-
else is under operations. That's books, that's our library supplies, that's paper, that's toner, that's all that, any of that stuff.
So David, I don't know if you get it, but so what did you take the three line items, kind of put them together and come up with the recommended?
The mayor did, yeah.
Yeah.
We sat and talked about it. We would prefer one line item. Nobody likes using regular wages. I would think we would do better to have something called transfers out or something, fund the library, one line for that. We don't wanna repeat the library's income statement in our books. It doesn't make sense. So,
Right.
we're gonna fund from one line, regular wages, nothing.
Right.
Yeah. Mayor thought, let's give them this increase rather than the one they asked for. I don't know what else she thought, but that's what I recall.
I get it. I mean, so the request is 1701,404 was your total request.
Correct.
But, and I don't know if this is yours, but in the 5-year plan under library for FY '24, the spend says 1,674,832. So we're really only off $50,000 from.
That is correct.
Okay.
I'm looking for $50,000. And in the grand scheme of things, we're looking for $50,000.
So you're looking at us to level up what the 5-year plan says?
Yep.
Okay.
We just, and that will get and that's what I'm saying, the library, we run very, very efficiently, and I think we've shown that over the course of the last few years. For the 30 staff members that we have, that $50,000 will also allow us to be able to help get our salaries where they need to be. Are we gonna be there next year? No, but if we look over the next 3 years, 5 years, it'll help us get where we need to be, where we can start maybe seeing staff actually want to stay here and not keep leaving. The amount of time that administration that we're spending just trying to, relearn staff every time someone new comes in is insane. We could be looking at grants, we could be looking at things to be able to bring in that aren't gonna be offset on the budget from the city.
No, I understand it. So before I open it up to the council, could you just introduce, because I don't know everybody's name, I may miss somebody, who's here representing the library and the library board. If you just
Sure.
state their names, just for the
So we've got John Galvin, the board president, Bill Heffernan, vice president. We have Charlie Gunning, who's our treasurer. Lenny Adams, who's a board member. We have Gwen Haley, who's also a board member. Pat Donovan, who's a board member. Mary Melinda, board member, and Catherine Bushman is the assistant director.
Thank you. Anyone have any questions for Colleen in the library? Councilman Donovan.
Yeah, I just think the issue, and correct me if I'm wrong, and Mr. Taylor, I think this might go to you. By that amount of money being under regular wages, would that can that money be used for something else? I mean, it's in the regular wages, so
Yeah.
it's like,
I same question the first time I saw it, but that's just where we've always had it, the history's in that line. I personally, I would rather see it as, like a transfer sort of
Funding
line, like,
allocation.
yeah, something like that. We do have transfer lines that we use, for example, the city pays the sewers bonds. And then we use transfer lines from the sewer budget to the city budget. We have a revenue side, we have a revenue on the city side and expense on the sewer side. We could do the same thing with the library. They have a revenue line in their budget that matches our expense line here. So I would rather see it do that. It's a little bit, it's kind of like your fringe benefits earlier. And the city calls them employee benefits. So it's a little bit of a different way to say the same thing.
I know it seems
Yeah.
like it's a nitpicky thing, but again, the French benefit, and
Yeah.
looking at this, it's like, and I'm not saying it would happen by any means, I know most of the people on the board, so I know it would not, but it's like, well, you know what, we got 1.6 in the regular wages in the line item, you know what, why don't we hire more people, and that maybe ask for something
They manage
else.
their own budget.
Yeah, no, we manage
Yeah,
our
no,
own budget, yeah.
I get
and-
it, and I didn't mean it as, I just think that there might be, you know, people
The
look at
problem for
it
the city
differently.
in having it here is
So-
it looks like our wages are higher than
Yeah,
Yes.
okay?
Yeah,
So
right.
that, I
So
agree that this
it's-
is.
And that's,
it's
and
more of
that's
an
why,
image
and that's
thing.
honestly why I kind of broke it out,
Mm-hmm.
because it's not a true reflection of what's being given to the library, what it's for. This is for the books that we buy, this is for everything, this is for the utilities, it's for the medical, it's for everything for the library, not just the wages.
Yeah, and the city's not mandating we can spend that on wages.
No,
so-
no,
so
they're
we-
not.
From our standpoint, it ought to be just what we pay the library.
So the mayor's recommending 1.625, and you're requesting 1.701, whatever,
Yes.
correct?
But then,
So,
but it's really 675.
Yeah, when you,
So that's
when, from the
75,000
time,
more,
so from the time that we
76,404.
did the 5-year plan that was asked for to now, this is the number that we came up with. Now, again, any increase to the library at this point is going to go towards wages and salaries and making sure we get those where we need to be.
thank you. I'm all set, Chairman.
Thank you, Councilman Donovan. Councilman Johnston?
Random thought. How do we, in regards to our conversation with the sewer plant just about an hour ago, how do we compare with other towns in terms of revenue? Are we kind of just going with the motions of this is what we offer in terms of like summer programs and vacation programs, or are we starting to think of new creative ways to
We're
kind of-
actually doing a lot more than some other libraries.
Okay.
Our staff, and again, because we're hiring at a lower level, I kind of look at it as we're an experimenting library, so why don't we give it a shot and see if it happens, if a program works. We've tried a lot of random programs and different summer programs, and in some cases, we're actually doing more, even with some of those other libraries that have more staff. And we have staff that are really willing and really want to be able to do as much as we possibly can for the residents of West Haven.
So I guess my question would be, after putting all the work in and the experimental, are we finding it's worth it? Or do we need to look at other options? Because I guess what I'm getting at here is, in terms of what Councilman Quagliani said, you know, the MARB is asking us and I know the library is a very small fraction of what we're talking about here, but in the scheme of things, if we're able to address this in multiple areas, not just the library, but in other aspects of the city, where everybody is thinking of creative new ways to maintain themselves, it doesn't become more of a problem than it already is of, we need more, we need more, we need more. So that's what I'm kind of getting at, because I know you're asking for more, so that's why I brought up, what are we doing for the revenue?
I think like when we go to look at building the new Allentown Library, there's ways and funds of looking at being able to bring more internet access to everyone. There's a lot of stuff, what they're calling like looking at the digital divide and bringing more digital technology at the hands of users. Libraries are that center focus for that. So there's a lot of funding that's out there in regards to doing things like that. That's one of those things that is actually that the ARPA is looking at for doing things like doing digital navigation and helping residents. So we could be doing more stuff with that, but again, we're stretched as far as we can. So being able to look at other ways of bringing money in through some of that technology is probably a way that we could be looking at bringing other funds into the city.
Okay. Thank you, Melissa.
Councilwoman Hamilton?
Thank you for coming. And everybody else. So I'm a little concerned because where we're at now, and we're talking about a new library, we're talking about a building, and then we're talking about staffing. Is it feasible, like when you still look at the long picture, is it still a feasible option to go forward with the project of building another library? Of course, I live in the district, I would love to have it. I just wanna know can the city afford it? When you look at the big picture.
I mean, I do think we are gonna be asking for more once that library's built. I mean, I think that we can't, when you look at our 5-year plan, we are looking to build out for that. We are also being very cognizant when we're looking to build that new library of making sure the way that library is built, we can have it open safely as possible with as few staff as possible. So we are cognizant of looking at that. But we're doing a disservice to Allentown by not having a library in that area. And I think it's something that the city has to be looking at as something that is important. The libraries are cornerstones of communities, and it's something that's lacking in the Allentown area. I mean, we've also talked, about if we had one building in one place, well, we'd need to knock things down and move parking lots, and the main library would need to be 3 times the size that it is, and then you're still gonna have people who don't wanna necessarily go downtown. And I think the unique nature of how West Haven has been built is why it's so important to have that specific library, that branch library in Allentown.
And I want you to know, and I want the public to know, I'm not disagreeing with that at all. I kind of even think that if that was really important to the library, there would have been a satellite, there would have been something. There would have been a little rental something
we've been
in Allentown.
We've been trying, so we were trying to
be
have our bookmobile was gonna be in Allentown. Unfortunately, the staff member who was writing it, got another job in another town paying more. And so we've brought somebody back in, and we will be doing that. That's also why
How long have there not been a presence in Allentown?
And I also have to work with the staff that we have. So we're doing what we can to make sure that those patrons are
Because there
being
were things
reached.
that were offered that could have been, that just never
Well,
was.
we also don't have the funds to be able to pay rent in Allentown, unfortunately, because we don't have the budget for
But
it.
there used to be a staff in Allentown.
Yes.
All that got absorbed.
They got absorbed, and we had some retirements, and then those people were not replaced right away. We have not replaced some of those positions until we have a branch that's going to be built, and then we'll bring those staff members on then.
Okay. I have nothing else right now.
Thank you, Councilwoman Hamilton. Chairman Massaro?
Colleen, what's the expected future of starting this Allentown project?
What are you referring to? Are you referring to cost, or are you referring to?
When you're gonna start putting the shovel in the ground?
Well,
Because
we still need to have some of the land in place. If we're trying to work with the fire department, as I'm sure you're all well aware, of the possibility of expanding that space. And again, that's gonna also help us look at state and federal funds to be able to build a building, hopefully with as little funds as possible coming from the city. That's what we're looking to do. But we need funding, we need support from city council and from people in the city from being able to make that happen.
Well, I also looking at some of your income here, your revenues. You haven't had any recent fundraisers at all that I see.
We're in the process of working with a capital campaign organization to be doing some very large fundraising as well. We've been doing, we've been in the discovery phase with doing some of that stuff, be looking at the feasibility of doing some fundraising.
Now, as far as the property that you've got, that you already purchased, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, is it under my understanding you're gonna get the property next door? Are they trying to get the property next door?
As far as I am concerned, 668 was being foreclosed on. We had been told that there was a possibility it would be deeded over to the VIA, but there was no, we haven't really heard much from corporate counsel about that in many months in regards to that. But that was the hope, yes, because by doing that, we were looking at doing a one-floor building, which brings down the cost of the building significantly, making sure that we also have a much larger parking lot as well. But again, we haven't really heard much from corporate counsel as far as that goes, and where that status. I would love to know the status of where that 668 is.
So now I'm confused. If you get that property, where's the fire department fit in?
Well, we'd be looking at also the possibility of the property behind as well, so we'd have the whole block.
Okay.
We are looking to put some plans in place. We want to make sure we have plans to be able to bring to you so that you guys can all see a full, clear picture of what we're looking to do. And we're looking to get that together in the next few weeks.
Okay, I got one more question. The money that the ARPA has for you, for the library, what is your plans for that $1 million?
We were to have that $1 million, we would be able to clear that land, and we would also be able to do concrete, architectural plans and some of the studies that we need to have done on that land to be able to move forward with that as quick as possible.
Do you have this already started in place? Is this already, in other words, if we give you the money next month, are you gonna be able to start that soon?
Yes, oh yeah.
Okay, thank you.
So, I'm gonna piggyback off that, and I participated in the, I think his name is Dave, from the, was it the Giving Collective or whatever?
Yep.
So did he give you a report yet of what he thought you could fundraise for with
We
the
have
community?
not gotten the full report yet, we should have that in the next week or so.
Right, and I know I see the Honorable Fire Chief is here. I would
Mhm.
imagine he's here based on this
Mm-hmm,
partnership.
yep.
So can I ask you, Chief, to come on up? And I'm not looking to put you on the spot, so if you don't know the answer, say you don't know the answer, so.
Good evening.
Good evening. So I was just looking at, as Colleen was talking about, the building and the city, potential city contribution. There's nothing in our capital plan that goes to FY '28 that talks about funding for a library. There is funding, and it's just projection, right, for '24, for this year, for $1 million for a fire station, $4 million in '25, and $4 million in '26. So that's $9 million out of, which is sure nowhere near enough. I guess my question is that piece of property that the library currently owns, is that big enough to put a library and a fire station there?
We originally were gonna look at that entire parcel.
Yeah.
When we learned that the library had taken the option on the one half that was available, we had to change gears and went with a plan B and started looking for other locations that would be suitable. We then, trying to figure out how to do this collectively and with the best interests of the taxpaying constituency in Allentown. They're in need of a building, we're in need of a building. We did try to approach UNH to see if we could do something jointly with them, and it started to make sense to work with the library. Certainly, they had half of what we need, and we thought it was out of reach. But then we decided to look at the other half, and we have had conceptual drawings done by our architect who plotted a building on there. But as of Saturday, are going to join our architect and the library's engineer, come up with a joint facility conceptual viability to do it, and we believe it will be doable. Enough parking, enough space for their 12,000 square feet and our approximate 29 to 30,000 square feet.
Are there any other collaborations like this where the
Yes.
fire department and a library are attached? Because it seems like,
Yep.
Fire department's loud, library's quiet,
So, let's not forget though that Ora Mason is right next door to a firehouse and has
Yeah.
been for 60
But are there
years.
any collaborations?
Yes, there are. There's a proliferation of it on the West Coast.
Mhm.
There's one in Asheville, North Carolina. Chief Espo, you have any other
Newport.
example of such?
Newport Beach, California.
I'm sorry, Chief, I didn't know you were here. So Deputy Chief Mike Esposito's in the room as well. Yeah, so I think, and I'm not gonna speak for the chairman, but I think we have similar concerns that it appears that you have a lengthy horizon ahead of you in order to identify a site, design a building, build a building, and the ARPA clock is ticking. So, I don't know, I know you have money that you've already been approved and I think you were putting that in your pocket for design or something of.
Site acquisition, site preparation, and or possible, further architectural. And that is still on the table. If we go back to the combined spot at 668 Orange Avenue, we're still gonna need that money, because we're gonna need architecturals drawn, we're gonna need to have site preparation. We're hoping that the city may be successful in some kind of acquisition of the remainder of that parcel through back taxes or things of that nature. But we would also have that for acquisition. We have the ARPA money. But I too, and I'll be honest, at first thought about it, what was the connection between the library and the fire department? And it's an appropriate question. And as you think about it, because I said, well, what's a library? Books.
Nope.
That's
much more than
not. But in working with the library recently, I'm learning so much more about what a library is, and I'm able to start to see where some of the other aspects come together. We're community service entities. They provide services to the community, as the entire city does, with infrastructure and all that. But where do you go when you have a problem? When you have an emergency, a medical emergency, fire emergency, or most any cat in the tree, you go to the fire department. Where do you go when you need access to the internet, or you need help with getting a job, or other things that the library provides? You go to the library. We're going to be in the same spot.
Listen, I personally think it's innovative to take two projects that probably on their own have very little chance of getting any traction, and now to try to put them together to get some traction. So I commend you both for that. I think that's thinking that we've kind of talked about here. Whether we like, whether I like the site or whether that's to me, that's not material to me. But it's the idea of being able to say, listen, here's the needs of the Allentown community, right? We have a fire station that's how many years old, that's outdated, that we need something. We talked. The sewer, right? Wait until the last minute, tape and glue, right? You have a fire department that's tape and glue, right? So, there's no current presence right now of the library. So I like the fact that, you're thinking about how you could integrate. And so, I guess the question for me, Colleen, is that if the fire department's putting up their $1 million of ARPA funds, is that the intention of the library to put their $1 million, and then we collectively have
Correct.
$2 million?
That is correct. And we're also looking at we did not make it for the round 2 for community investment funds. We are going to be also looking to apply jointly together for community investment funds through the state as well. We are also looking to talk to the federal delegation as well in regards to any kind of funding we can get at that level for funding this. I happened to be in DC last month in regards to, for something else for American Library Association, and when I spoke to some of the people at the state delegation, they were really interested in the fact that we're looking to have a fire department and a library working together. So I do think there's some federal funding out there that we'll also be able to get for this. As a very unique project in New England, we could be something that could be a cornerstone for other people to look to emulate.
Chairman, if I may, we also have $1 million already from the state library association.
State construction grant.
Right, so at this point, we have $3 million basically. As far as our endowment goes, we've already bought the land there, so we've already invested over 300,000, and we're going to commit more money from our endowment, most likely up to $1 million. So pretty much between what we have and already spent and what we have committed through ARPA and the state, we're at $4 million. You're saying the capital budget is about 9 million over 3 years? Did I hear that right?
That's what's in here is projected, that's
Right.
correct, yeah.
Okay, and that brings us up near 13 million. The preliminary drawing that the chief had for the old Orange Avenue site, I don't know if you were aware of it through UNH with the police. Anyway, there was a drawing done there for virtually the same size building, and the cost for that was 15 million. Now, naturally, we know time has gone by, even if it's only a few months. But we have committed, last Saturday, the chief is contacting his architect that does just firehouses. Public safety. We've got our engineer, asked him to coordinate. Now, this just started last week. I think Chief Esposito was making the phone calls yesterday morning.
It's already done.
Already done. And, I mean, this is something that we're committed to doing for the people of Allentown. I think if you look at the statistics, the largest population of the city of West Haven is in the Allentown area. And these people pay their taxes to the entire city. And since the Allentown Library has been closed, they're not getting the service they're paying for with the library. And I think it's a crying shame. And Robin, I'm really disappointed you say, why aren't we in a storefront? Well, my question to you is, why hasn't the city council funded a storefront?
Mr. Galvin, we're not gonna go down
Okay,
that
we're
road
not going
again.
down that road.
Because we did
but
fund
I'm just
money 2
answering
years ago for a
a
storefront, so we're not,
person's-
we're looking
No,
forward.
And we're looking forward, that's why we're here. But I'm just saying, I was very disappointed in that one comment, Robin. As much as
No,
we
but
admire
I
each other, I
think
can't
with all
say
due
that.
respect
Right.
to you, even as my constituent,
Yeah.
we did allow for monies to be set aside so there could be some kind of presence in Allentown. We did, and it didn't get spent that way.
Well,
So,
we came, well,
I think that's where we're at,
Yeah.
Mr. Galvin, so let's
but
let's move
unfortunately,
on.
we will be coming forward collectively with, I think, a very doable project. I think we're within several $1 million of what's already on the table. So it's not really out of the question, it's not pie in the sky. And I would certainly hope that all the people that have said they believe in a library in Allentown come through with the votes when it's needed. Thank you.
Chief.
You said earlier that the other governing board that's watching everything we do here in the city wants ideas like this. I think this is a great example of trying to meet what they've been trying to direct us all to try to do. I'm in big support of it.
Me too.
I think it's gonna be the one way to get it done, accomplished, for the most cost-effective application.
sense. And I think it's, again, as I said to you, you're taking two projects that were, having a difficult time getting traction and now putting them together, both, viable, necessary, community enriching projects, right? So you're thinking outside the box. Now, as I'm thinking here, I'm saying, geez, I wonder if you thought about this particular, which I'm sure you have, is that, it would have been very difficult for bonding to be approved for an Allentown fire station, because that the only ones that bear the cost of the Allentown Fire Department are the people that live in Allentown. So that would be a big bogey, right, that people would have to pay, a significant, probably mill rate increase. Now, I would imagine, I don't know, I'm not a legal beagle, but if you link that up with the library, now is that spread citywide as opposed to just Allentown, the cost of that debt service? So that's an interesting concept. So,
Well, it's also what was really identified was the two of us together going for state, federal.
Agreed.
Granted money. And,
so the partnership is great.
yeah, and I won't say yes or no as to whether or not that ran across my mind. But I'm just trying to do my job in advising this board and protect the people that I'm supposed to protect the best I can.
And I just want to serve the residents of Allentown.
And I'm very happy that we didn't have Colleen, you coming and promoting how much we need a new library on the same existing path, and Chief, you come and saying how much we need an Allentown Fire Department, which I don't think anybody on either of those disagrees with, but the numbers don't work, right? So
And that's our job, to try to help you
And I'm excited by that.
Try to make the numbers work.
Chairman Massaro, then Councilman Boris.
Chief,
Yes, sir.
if you and the library together, could you get a lease purchase deal out of that?
Yes, we can. We've been investigating that possibility.
That would
Tax
be-
exempt municipal leasing that does not affect the bond rating.
That'd be very interesting too. Thank you.
Councilman Boris?
Madam Chief, I think it's so genius to have something like that, because think about it, every little kid loves the fire department.
Yep.
That's gonna bring more kids into the library. It's like working hand in hand. That's kinda like,
The
wow.
Touch a Fire Truck programs are always very, very
it's crazy.
popular.
I'm like, yo, that's awesome, but thank you, good idea.
Thanks, Councilman Boris. Anybody else have any questions?
All right.
I think that's it.
Thank you, everyone.
All right, thank you all. Thank you all for coming.
Thank you.
I had it memorized.
So just some housekeeping. On Thursday, we have 6 o'clock, Human Resources Personnel, 6:30, Public Works, 7 o'clock, the Tax Assessor, and until then, we are in recess.
I have a dinner